Excel 2013, Unit E, sum a data range based on conditions. Now, we can also use Microsoft Excel functions if we need to sum, count, or average data based on a special criteria or condition that we set. A few of the functions that we have in mind to try out today would be COUNTIF, which counts data based on a criteria, or SUMIF, which sums based on a criteria, or AVERAGEIF, which you get the point. So let's go ahead and try this out. First, I want to make sure that I'm in G7, and I want to try out COUNTIF first and foremost. Here's what I'd like Microsoft Excel to do on my behalf. I want it to count only the Pacific Odyssey tours in my tour list and ignore everything else, basically. Now, the count function is considered by Microsoft Excel to be a statistical function. To do what we need to do, let's go to the Formulas tab above the ribbon. Let us go to the More Functions button, because I don't have a category here in my function library just sitting here for statistical functions. But if I go to the drop down, I can catch it or find it right there. And we'll come down to COUNTIF. The range that I want to pull the criteria from is what I want first. So I'll grab my range, and my criteria of interest is going to be Pacific Odyssey. Now, here's the thing I need to mention that is not mentioned in your textbook, which is why I said the textbook may have an error for this assignment. In order for this range to remain A6 through A25, I need to do something different with it. Now, I'm going to come back and show you what that is. I'm not going to do it yet. I want you to see the error that I'm going to get when I try to copy it. And some of you may have already picked up on this. Let's also try SUMIF, which will permit us to sum only the revenue for our Pacific Odyssey tours. So now with SUMIF, that's considered a math and trig function. So I'm going to position my mouse in H7, find math and trig, and scroll down until I see SUMIF. The first range, of course, is for my criteria range. My criteria is in A6 through A25. What is the criteria? That's going to be Pacific Odyssey. And again, with the sum range, where is the range that contains the data that needs to be summed? That's going to be my price category here, or my price column. That'll be B6 through B25, and I can get a nice little preview to let me know that I'm on the right track here. So I'll click OK. And I'm going to have a similar issue there. You'll see why in just a moment. Average price, I believe that is also considered a statistical function by Microsoft Excel. So position my mouse in I7, go to More Functions and Statistical, and AVERAGEIF close to the top, since this is in alphabetical order, and grab my range that the criteria comes from, choose my criteria, which is F7, and where is the information that I want averaged based on my criteria? Well, that would be my price category here. And there's my preview to let me know whether or not I'm on the right track. So I'll click OK. Now, in the next thing that the textbook tells us to do after we've done all of this is to select my range G7 through I7. I'm looking at number 7 on page Excel 108. Select the range G7 through I7 and use the fill handle to copy this down. And according to them, I should see the results that are shown in figure E5. And I'll add that to the video after the fact so that you can see. But really, that's not going to be the case. Ignore this. This is Microsoft Excel complaining about adjacent cells being omitted, and I meant to omit them, so I'm going to go ahead and ignore that. But actually, you're going to find that this does not add up, and a closer look will tell you why. If we double-click, then we can see the range finder kick in. For instance, A6 through A25. F7 you can see exactly what's being pulled in terms of your function. Sum range, for instance, notice the colored border. Watch what happens when I go down to my next set. Uh-oh. Notice I begin not including everything. And there's a pretty good reason as to why this is happening. I'll keep going so you can see. Notice that A6 through A25, for instance, changes to A7 through A26, A8 through A27. My range is changing. The row is changing. And the row is changing because I copied this down across rows. I don't think we named any ranges, so yeah. So I don't want that to happen. I'm really okay if the F7 changes to F8, F9, F10 because I want that to happen. That will mean that Microsoft Excel is picking up Old Japan, Costa Rica, Yellowstone as my criteria. But I don't want my range to ever change. So I'm going to have to make a correction there if I want this to work out right. And I can't find in your textbook where they specify that this might be an issue. But let's go ahead and fix it here. So I'm going to hit my, my function key on my keyboard because that's a quick way to change reference types. You have 4 types of references. The default is a relative reference, and relative references are great. A relative reference changes based on where you copy it to. For instance, and this video may be a little longer than our typical videos, but for instance, just to give you an example, let's say I typed in let's type in A6. That'll show you Pacific Odyssey. But I want you to keep in mind that behind the scenes is the cell reference, A6. Well, with a relative reference, the cell reference changes relative to the new location that you copy it to. So let's say if I copy this across columns, notice Pacific Odyssey changed to 1205, but primarily because A6 automatically changed into B6. If you copy across columns, then the column indicator might change or will change if you have nothing to tell it that it should not change. If you copy, and I'll delete this for now, if you copy a cell reference or relative cell reference down over rows, well then the row is going to change. Notice that the 6 changed to 7. The column didn't change, it's still A, but the row changed. When we do not want that to happen, we have to put a $sign to the left of the thing that we do not want to change. So in this instance, if I do not want the column to change, I can put a $sign to the left of the column. So now, notice A6 is still A6. Only the column was in danger of changing anyway. Now, if I do not want something to change if I copy over rows, I need to put a $sign over or to the left of the row. So for instance, no $sign there, I can put a $sign here. And now if I copy it down, notice my A6 is still A6. Only the row was in danger of changing, so we put a $sign to the left of the row. Now, if you don't want anything to change, no matter where you copy it to, you put a $sign to the left of not only the column, but also the row. Now, no matter where you copy it to, it remains the same. It is always A6. Very handy. By the way, Microsoft Excel includes a quick way of toggling through these different reference types. And it's the function key F4 on your keyboard. So every time I hit F4, I get a different reference type. I start here with a relative reference type. It changes relative to the new location where I copy it to. Either the column or the row is going to change, depending. The second time I hit the function key F4, I get an absolute reference, which means nothing's going to change no matter where I copy it to. This is actually called a mixed reference, with the column varying, because the column would still change if I copied across columns, but the row would not change if I were to copy this reference over my rows. This is also a mixed reference, but with the row varying, because the column is now held in place by the $sign, but there's nothing to hold the row in place. So what I'm suggesting for our assignment here is we're going to need to come down here, and I'm going to go ahead and make them absolute references. Really, I'm just going to be copying across rows, so I could make them a mixed reference with a row varying. Row varying? No, with the column varying. A mixed reference with the column varying. Now, I'm okay if that F7 changes, as I mentioned, but I don't want anything else to change. So I'm going to go ahead and change my reference types here. And now, if we copy this down, this is how your numbers actually match the numbers in the textbook. If you don't change the reference types, that's not going to happen. So we'll say this is it for this exercise. Sum of data range based on conditions. But you know what? Now that I think about it, let me mention one more thing. It's good if you know the categories that your function is considered to be in. Few people know that. And Microsoft Excel has over 400 different functions. But you can also search for the function you need. You got the insert function button to the left of the formula bar that will let you search for a function. So for instance, SUMIF and go. And you can also go to the insert function button under the formulas tab and bring up the dialog box there as well. And by the way, if you know the function name and the argument, you can simply type in what you need. Notice that Microsoft Excel highlights the argument that you're entering in. So for instance, let's say I was going to replicate the one I did for tour sold. I could come here, comma, pick my criteria, and really I don't need the third one because I'm going to be, and I don't need SUMIF, I need COUNTIF here. And in this instance, I don't need that third argument. Oh, I didn't choose my, excuse me. Yeah, that looks better. So you can also, the gist of that was, you can also simply type in the function and the argument. You don't have to use the insert function button to get that done. Now we'll say that this is it for Excel 2013 Unity Sum of Data Range based on conditions.